Yo, yo, yo. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to VUX World. I'm your host, as always, Kane Sims, and I'm going to get a video done for that intro next time. It's going to be nice and highlighty with lots of clips of our previous guests, so I'm looking forward to that. Good tune, good tune. Happy Tuesday, and before we do kick off with an excellent conversation today with Muddu Sudhakar, who is the CEO of Aisera, one of Gartner's Magic Quadrant featuring conversational AI platforms, a niche player in that. And we're going to get into the conversation with Muddu coming right up. But before we do that, I want to tell you about the event that we have coming up in October in Arlington, Virginia. In the US of A, we'll be coming across the pond, VUX World, on tour. We'll be doing a conference at the Voice Summit. It's going to be VUX at VOICE22. We're going to be talking about the end-to-end automation journey for call centers. And so if you are interested in how to apply AI technology in your call center, conversational AI, natural language processing, then this day on the 11th of October is going to walk you through the step-by-step process of just how to do that. It's presented by Core AI, and we're going to have a whole bunch of unbelievable speakers there. Lots of enterprises talking about case studies, lots of technology companies showing you the path forward. It's going to be absolutely amazing. The agenda and all the details will be in the show notes. Please do check it out. VUX at Voice22. Looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to this conversation today with Muddu Sudhakar from Aisera. Muddu, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for having me. I like your show. We should call it AI World, VUX AI World, right?
Yeah.
Voice user experience with AI. I call
Yeah.
it AIX World. I really like what you do for the
Nice one.
audience. So thank you.
Thank you. I've been thinking about a rebrand because naming it VUX was a little bit short-sighted, and it is. I kind of call it VUX now because then it kind of like passes off as its own sort of term, which doesn't have to necessarily mean VUX. But yeah, I think something to do with AI, CX. That's predominantly what we talk about these days. Is how the AI technology, natural language processing technology, is enabling businesses to improve what they do operationally and provide better customer experiences. And so maybe a rebrand might be on the cards. But one company that doesn't have to rebrand because it's making a hell of a lot of room in the market and name for itself is Aisera. You've been doing some very impressive stuff, been on a mission as of late, implementing this kind of stuff in the enterprise. So I'm excited to have you along, and congrats on the good work you've been doing as well.
Thank you, Ken. It's actually a privilege to be part of your show. I always watch all your podcasts and what you've been doing to the community of AI, contact center, conversation AI. I think we need more of you. Keep doing this. We love these shows and keep doing that and educate the audience because AI is here to stay. It's part of our world for the next 20, 30 years.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. If only I could clone myself. That's kind of what I've been trying to dream about lately. I'm
That's
sure
easy.
you.
You could create an AI avatar, Kane avatar. Maybe
Yeah.
next time with the Kane avatar.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We had Danny Tomset from Unique Digital Humans on yesterday, and we were talking about digital humans. So that's maybe the next step is to create an AI avatar of myself. We'll see. Who knows? Who knows? But no, definitely excited to get into the conversation. So tell everybody who's tuning in a little bit about yourself, Muddu. You've got a lot of experience in the startup world. You've got a lot of experience working with large organizations at a senior level. Splunk, ServiceNow. You've invested in a bunch of companies as well. What led you to Aisera?
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. Look, it's a journey, right? So as I said, I've been doing both, working at large companies, startup companies. We started Aisera, I think, back in 2017. Me and my co-founder Christos. Again, if you have to understand, when I was at ServiceNow, when you're talking to at ServiceNow, talking to customers, you have a front row seat on what's happening. Remember, this is pre-pandemic. AI was there, but it's AI and machine learning was still nascent. It was going on. I would say most of the AI things really to happen was the cloud. Cloud is the reason how AI has happened, right? So if you look at machine learning, neural networks were there back in 80s, 90s. What really changed the game is the invention of cloud. With both Amazon and Microsoft leading the charge with the cloud. Without the cloud, AI and machine learning algorithms won't be where we are today. And then come 2017, as I meet with customers, particularly being at ServiceNow, you're going to meet a lot of call center, contact center people, right? Anybody who's running your service desk, help desk, customer support, And one thing that was obvious is these people are really needed tools and solutions to automate mundane tasks. They don't mind helping you, Ken, if you have like a complex problem. Like if you and me have some audio problems, setup issues, I have some basic things like my account is logged out, or I can't log in, or I want to fix my network issues, Wi-Fi issues, or it could be my customer, my subscription. I want to add my family member. I want my money back. I mean, most mundane tasks, I don't think humans want to be get involved to do it, right? After all, in the first 1 month, 2 months, 3 months will be okay. Because as a humans, we are designed to grow, evolve. There's a reason evolution in the world, history, humans have evolved. So we can't expect our all the employees, all the people who are doing in the call center, contact center people saying, hey, you come to work, do the same mundane task repeatedly like a robot for 20 times a day or take 50 times a day. It's just not fair. And that's actually the reason how we started this whole journey and said, look, something has to change. And back then I talked to a gentleman by the name Ram Shriram. As you know, Ram funded Google and he sits on Google's board, and Ram had the same vision. And he said, we can't do we got to take a chance in the world to make it a bet on these type of technologies. Some may happen, some may not happen. And you may have to write the technology curve. And with that inception, we said, look, is AI fully there? It may have its own technology curves. Back then when we started, there was no unsupervised. It was all guided flows. When people talk about conversational AI, even Gartner, for them, conversational AI is not AI. I mean, that's why they call it conversation platform. They call it NLP separately, AI separate. To me, you don't want to differentiate like that. At the end of the day, the customers don't care if it's NLU, NLP, AI, machine learning, like just something automated, right? So this whole evolution of how we are dissecting it, etc., we thought, look, we got to change everything. And we took a bold bet on how can we do a new AI solution that doesn't require too much of human intervention. It has to be simple to use. It has to be natural. But at the core, it has to have unsupervised approach. It's like think of your driverless cars, either from Google or Tesla. If you have to keep on training the car when you buy it, you're not going to use it too much. The car may learn from your habits. That's different. That I call the behavior. That's like personalization, right? So there are aspects to of where you need the training and learning. On day one to use a car, I don't need your data sets. I don't want to, right? It's like when you buy an Apple phone, you don't want Siri to say, come and sit and train with me to use it. You're not going to buy Apple phone then, right? So I think this notion, some of these things, the industry still has to handle it, and particularly as we customers industry. But I think we are at a point, there are technologies already there. It's going to get better. So that's kind of the reason why we started to look, can we do it? Can we change the life of humans, which is customer facing people, end users? Can we change the life of the agents also? Because they want to get out of poverty. Like whether you like it or not, people in contact center, they don't get paid much. I mean, their lives matter too. We need to move them up in the food chain, right? So I think a whole lot went in our discussion process, how we wanted to evolve this. And then I talked to Maynard Webb. Maynard sits on Salesforce board, and he said the same thing. Look, all these people, the industry executives like the Ram Shriram, Maynard Webb, Dan Mormon, Paul Morich. Paul was my boss from VMware. All these guys said, look, let's make a bet on this world, how we can change, right? Make this AI to be used by this world to as best possible. And it's not going to be easy bet. It may take 5 to 10 years, right? So it's a long bet that we are making.
Mm.
And that's what I enjoy making bets. There's no guarantees we'll succeed, but at least we can control the destiny if we all work hard together.
Very good, very good. And I think the signs are showing that it's happening. You know, the adoption of this technology is definitely growing, and there's lots of competition. Mind, you know, I mean, the Gartner Magic Quadrant I referenced at the beginning there. You know, it was a lucky number of companies that were featured in it. Not lucky because they're all, you know, good in their own right, and that's why they're there. But for every company that was in there, lots of companies are not there. And so I'm wondering whether you could maybe I mean, there's loads to unpack from what you've just said there. The future of jobs, mundane tasks, and what makes things. I mean, we'll get to all that kind of stuff in a minute. But I wonder whether you can first maybe share with the listeners what you think makes for a good kind of platform, a good AI platform. Because as I said, for every one that was included in that Magic Quadrant report, there's probably 100 or 200 that weren't. So, what do you think differentiates a company like Aisera from other technology platforms out there that are trying to do something similar?
Yeah, absolutely. Very good question. Look, for me, the way in which I see Ken is, look, uh, Gartner would obviously report. I would say all of them, they're like an another analyst firm. As the companies share, they probably have some information, but at the end, the customers know more than the Gartner, right? They have the problems. First thing is you need to talk to the customers. They're experiencing the problem. Like you probably know how to use your platform as you're interviewing people. You know what your challenges are. To me, I always start with customers, the end users, and the customers and their end users. What are their end users telling us? What are their problems? To me, that's much more important than the news reporting organization like Gartner, right? To me, they're just conveying certain things, but what really matters to me is customers and end users. For them, what they're asking is, can you provide an engine, call it whatever engine, AI engine or NLP engine, NLU. I want a simple, easy to use. If Kane asks me a question, can I understand what Kane is saying to the best possible, right? In whatever language. So, and that approach of understanding your this thing request, right? That is the most important one. I call that AI. It's almost like the AI SQL layer, right? That's something is we've been pushing out, right? Remember how Oracle came with a SQL layer, like AI SQL layer, like understanding what you do, understanding that the query and the request itself is an important one. The second thing, once you understand it, how do you serve that request, right? That's where the unsupervised natural language understanding or AI is important. The early days of most customers is all about supervised, right? Even now, 99% of all vendors that I know of, they do supervised approach. Like if you ask me this question, I'll do this. If you know exactly what the Kane is going to ask and if you write all the steps of it, you're probably a god. You won't know all the combinations. There's a reason why Google invented search, right? So this notion that I will create a dialogue flow or I use a knowledge flow or a conversation flow and call it a conversation platform, that's not AI. I don't think people are getting that. So a lot of vendors may put it there. I tell customers, beware. I mean, this is where you have to be beware of as a buyer, what you're looking for. Next is, do you have language models for multiple languages, right? And you and me talked last time when we were doing your show, right? It should be, I need a language model for different English. It's different from Japanese, from Chinese, right? You need a specific language models. Then depending on the request that you ask, your request may be fully loaded request. Even in English, you may ask me a question that have multiple intents in it, multiple meanings, multiple things. So how do I parse that out? And that's where the AI SQL layer kind of concept comes in, right? And then, given all these things, do you understand the domain that you are asking in? Right? Is your request related to a casual request? Are you in the healthcare space? Are you in insurance space? Right? And you don't want one bot for each domain. Like there are people who will say, I'll do a good job of IT, or I'll do a good job for contact center, or I'll do something for airline industry, or I'll do something for insurance. Like you're not going to wake up and say, I'll use different Apple phones, different Siri. You'll have one Siri to ask the question, whether you like it or not. Siri will answer at that point. You have to live with it, right? So this
Yeah.
concept of that universal bot, a bot, people are not still adopted that, right? So to me, I look at a whole lot of things like this as a fundamental need in which how you want to do it. And finally, you want to wrap this around with a simple concept of lot of requests that you do may not have an intent, right? Like when you ask something, you may not have any meaning into it. I call it intentless.
Hmm.
So that's where you need to have things like cognitive search, neural search, right? So this we can't abandon some of those things as well. So the concept of search, knowledge graph, conversation AI, right? Neural search, all these things has to marry with intent, intentless. So the technology is changing so much. My only request to customers is first figure out what is the problem you want to solve. Who are your end users? What are your requirements are? Create some kind of a table and create a success criteria and then look for it. Because just looking at some Gartner report, that won't solve the problem.
Hmm. It's interesting. It's really interesting how for a company who kind of like isn't, I suppose, experienced in this field, who has never used conversational AI before, but knows there's a need for it. Part of the issue I've seen is that they don't really know how to define their requirements because they don't really know what they need yet. And when whatever it is that they go with first, and I'm sure you've seen this happen as well. I would wager that you've gone into client organizations where AI Sira is replacing an existing technology, and I would wager that the existing technology was put in place because the client didn't really know what they needed, and they've just kind of gone with something and they got stuck. it didn't have what they needed in the end, because as soon as they learn and develop, they back themselves into a corner sometimes. So how would an organization who is thinking about conversational AI, thinks they want something for customer support or something like that, but they don't know anything about the platform, what are some of the key ingredients that they would need? You've mentioned a couple of things there around, not having a domain specific NLU, making sure that the platform is unsupervised, uses unsupervised learning, things like that. But again, these are all concepts that you need to know what NLU is. You need to know what unsupervised learning is. Let's say that I don't know that stuff, and I just know that I think there's a value in conversational AI. How does an organization go about putting together its requirements based on your experience of working with clients?
Yeah, no, I think very good question, by the way. I think there are two parts to this question, the one which I said came. First is, look, if you don't know what you don't know, you don't know, right? So obviously you need to hire a person, right? So this is an area where if whether you're working with, let's say, a C-suite person, whether it's a CIO or VP of customer service or chief customer officer or chief revenue officer, whoever the person or chief contact center officer, he or she, what they have to do is first hire a person who you trust, right? And that person with some domain expertise, and give them the full baton to do it. What the C-level people should not do is, hey, I'm going to do like a simple litmus test. I'm going to do a 3-month project or a 1-month project. Don't. This is a technology you need to go all in. You can't. So all in the sense, you want to do at least 1 year bet, right? This is where what I would like to see the C-level people, they don't do it that well in many areas, is not making enough bets. Not all bets are going to happen. I don't mind they select me or many of anybody similar to us, other vendors, but make one bet with somebody. Go for 1 year. A is at a point you're not going to learn anything through a POC or proof of value or proof of concept. Anybody who's trying to show you case that also you is misleading you. So I encourage or discourage people, don't do a proof of concept. First hire an expert to run it, create a sponsor, buyer, executive decision maker, empower that person, individual, then make a bet in some vendor. Pick a vendor, like they should watch Kane's show, whatever Kane is recommending, pick top 3 vendors there and pick one of them. Like to your point, the criteria should be, I would say, Kane's VUX World as a criteria, for example, right? Listen to you, right? Listen to you, take your requirements. Seriously, if they let's listen to your podcast and whichever you have, that's good enough for them at this point. That execute. And then make a bet. But only thing, the bet cannot be short time. Some people are making bets, but some are disillusioned that a POC or a 3-month project, 6 months, I will learn. No, you will not learn. Go all in for a year. Year is a good enough time. If you still don't see the value at that point, change the vendor, right? It's like, we call it when you buy a house, it's location, location, location. For AI, it's all AI, AI, AI. That's it. I think that should be your tagline under AI, AI. 3 AIs, that's it. All matters is AI. If this AI doesn't work, go to the second AI. If that doesn't work, go to the third AI. Hopefully, by 3 attempts, you found the right thing. If not, you have 3 strikes, you're out. Maybe then you should find another job, right? Seriously, I mean, nobody will give you 2 chances. But that each AI bet should be at least 1 year.
Yeah, interesting. That's a really refreshing approach to that, because the amount of consultancies and all that kind of stuff that sell proof of concepts as a way of trying to get the foot in the door, and the amount of vendors that do the same as a way of trying to land and expand, get the foot in the door, it's rife, which is, and it's really interesting to hear you say that that's not a good way to go about it, because the reality is that in a proof of concept, you don't generate enough data to build a good enough model anyway. You don't really refine the interactions to a level where they're really good enough to be put in front of customers at scale. And so there's no real other way to really find out other than really investing in building something properly. And that takes time.
That's right. And there's one more ad, if I may, Ken. I see that. I mean, this is again, I'm giving you with true honesty, nothing to help Aisera or not, but I see this. I mean, I've been doing this thing now, more than 25 years, both startup and this, and I see this mistake happen industry over industry. I try to do the same thing at cybersecurity. We did the same thing in the past for analytics industry, right? So one thing, other thing is, don't hire a consultant or don't talk to an expert. Like asking somebody an advice who is not fully vested in your company is no good. Like you get for whatever is advice. So calling an analyst, calling somebody else, I mean, they're not in the project. Trust yourself. The best way to do it, look, Ken, if I have to give an advice, I usually tell them, I'm not authorized to do it. I can't do it. I don't know it. But most people won't do that. Everybody is ready to offer an advice. So hiring 10 consultants or even 1 consultant or analyst is a wrong approach to this world. They're not building it. They're not operators. reading an article, reading on the side. So many CIOs make the mistake, look, let me go talk to some XYZ analyst or some expert. Sorry, that's not the way to do it.
Mm.
Let's not. And they maybe use that to say, look, this report says that they maybe think that by doing that, they're doing the right thing for their company, or they're trying to not do invest enough. Because nobody wants to make a bet that costs their company some money or their job. But unfortunately, good technology like this will need to make bets. Like look at whether Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, they make bets. Some bets will happen, some won't happen. If you are in the C-suite, you are required to make bets. You make 10 bets, out of which only one will survive. But if you cannot do that, you shouldn't be in that role. You can't say, I want to play for safety. If you want to put safety, give the CIO job to somebody else or give your CFO job to somebody else, right? I mean, you're required to help your company to make bets, and your educated bets that you got to make, right? Obviously, you won't do it. You do your analysis with your management team. But my advice to them is hire people who you trust and have them make some bets.
Mm.
But the bet should be long enough bet. It's like if Elon Musk comes and said, I want to do SpaceX in 3 months POC, otherwise I'm shut down. No, it took 10 years. At the end, it may come out, may not come, right? And that's a
Mm.
beauty in which I see how company like Microsoft done a great job. Look at Microsoft. It took a while for them to get teams working, but now they're rock and rolling it. Look at Zoom. They have done that bet with Eric Yuan, right? So all these companies are making bets in a space, whether like Zoom is getting into contact center, Microsoft is getting into contact center. They're going to change the life of contact center. Like you in this show, you're talking about. So existing contact center guys, if I'm there, right, I'll be worried about them getting Microsoft and Zoom getting in the game.
Mm.
Right? That changes the experience. But that bets are they're not making for 3 months, 6 months. They're going to go all in.
Mm. Interesting. It is. It is true. Microsoft, Microsoft don't do things on a whim, do they? And Zoom communication is all they do essentially. And so it's kind of like really interesting how this area would be a real kind of target for them. And if I look at Microsoft's announcement, obviously it's been released in kind of like general availability now. But when it was first announced in the press release a couple of months back, if you look at the features on that list of things that this contact center is going to do, I counted something like 9 out of 14 features had the word AI in it. And so if you look at like 3 years ago, AI and chatbots and voice assistants and all this kind of stuff was kind of like a layer that was wrapped over the top of a contact center. You know,
Right.
you'd maybe stick a chatbot against the live chat and you'd kind of slowly tweak it and like, patch AI onto the call center. Whereas now, the call centers today, Google's integration with UJet and partnership with UJet, Zoom, and Microsoft, these are contact center capabilities that are AI from the absolute core. And so I wonder whether you can shed a little bit of light on what you think in terms of enterprise technology architecture. Do you see AI now still as being a layer that's kind of like over the top, or do you see that in order for businesses to get real value, this technology needs to become so fundamental to the business that it is a real core technology?
Absolutely. Look, I mean, no doubt. I think there's the famous world that software is eating the world, AI is
Mm.
eating the world. If any CEO, any C level, any board, if they're not thinking about AI, we are wrong. They're all thinking. It's going to be here for us to say. So it has to be fundamental to your business, whether you are in meat packing industry, whether in agriculture industry, whether in cosmetic industry, whether in high tech insurance, they're using AI. Is the technology fully there today in many areas? Maybe not. It won't be there, right? But you're going to ride the wave. It's like the same as how computing has changed for 40 years. AI is going to change. I don't know how many years. It's going to be a new era. Maybe we are in the game one of a 10 boxing round match, right? But it's going to have 10 more rounds to go or 9 more rounds to go. And each round may take 5 to 10 years. So it's very early on. So if you're doing a software architecture, I always tell, like, let's create an architecture to your point. I think you asked the question about most people, and this is an area I get really excited. You got to create an architecture that is runs on any cloud. First of all, you do not want to run these services on your infrastructure on a local service. Many companies, this is one thing that I wish when we talk about it, you don't want to run a contact center on-prem. Guess how many contact centers are on-prem today? Right? It should
Well,
be an audience
80%, isn't it?
question. 90%, 80%. I mean, come on. I mean, why would you run your contact center on-prem today? I mean, you're in 2022, right? Change. I mean, that's something is like if I'm a contact center leader, I would just change that, right? To that point. Yeah, I would run that thing on the cloud to some, right? Then the question is, can you make that into also Kubernetes layer? I want that to be flexible. I want to be able to move things around. I want the resiliency. I want this to run in virtual cloud infrastructure. Then I want to make sure that my databases to store the data is a polyglot database. What do you mean by polyglot? Means I don't want to tune to one type of data. Like for to store voice requests, I may need a different database. To store chat requests, I might need something else. If I need the requests are not coming from humans, what if tomorrow you have to think the request could come from machines, right? If I'm running, if the machine is down, machine will be sending me an alert. It's not chat, it's trying to chat with us. So I call that one incident driven. It's not the request user driven, right? Incidents could
Mm,
come from your devices, all of those things, right? Notifications, right? So you need a different data store to run again all those things, to program this thing to run, to take action, right? You really need what I call a polyglot based workflow engine. What is a polyglot again? I may write in, your users may want to write in Java. You may write in JavaScript, Python, right? The world wants choices. I've got to get the best with what you are, Kane. Tomorrow, if I talk to somebody else, Tom, I'll get the best out of them. So these platforms should not be one dimensional today. And so the world will change. You to create a new architecture. Every business has to go look at inside and say, what can I do to offer my business services? Where can I leverage AI? Is it for my end users or my employees? Is it used to grow my business, scale my business, cut my costs down? Right? Is it to engage my users more, my customers more? But A is a fundamental aspect. It's not on the top, right? To your point,
mm,
if Microsoft already put 9 out of 14 features of AI, there's a reason. And Microsoft is a what, 2 trillion, $3 trillion company. They're almost like a nation state. They're
mm.
probably bigger than the top 10 countries in the world right now from a GDP, right? So from that perspective, Microsoft is putting AI in just in contact center. That gives you a sense as to where the world is going, right?
Mm,
And just other thing that you add, like if you remember, on the just a side note to the previous question, look at Apple. Okay, Siri. How many years did Siri took to get it correct? Right. I mean, I've been using
mm,
Siri. I mean, from day one, it took 5 years, 6 years. That's life. Did it answer everything perfectly on day one? Maybe, maybe not. Right. But is it getting better? Absolutely. So this goes back to your earlier question to you, like these technologies has to have a fundamental, and you have to go all in. And when you go
mm,
all in, you don't stop the project and start the project. If some vendor doesn't work out, find some other vendor, or maybe have multiple vendors to figure out. Do A/B testing, do co-process, but you got to go all in, right? Look at what my Apple does. They build their own chips. They buy the chips from Qualcomm. They buy the chips from Nvidia, right? But they're
mm,
all building their own. You got to your own. So some customer will say, "Hey, should I want to build my own?" Beautiful. Take a platform and build your own. But at the same time, also leverage what you got from the vendors out there. Compare your
mm,
notes. You don't want to wake up. It's not like a hobby and say, I want to wake up and I want to do a hobby. And that's where today some of the customers and thinking is, hey, I want to do a 2 3 month project. I want to do like a hobby. I want to test my art. No, don't put your fingers in the water. Just jump in, right? Jump into the pool, try to learn the swimming. Either you swim or we won't swim, but somebody will help you. Nobody will let you die in this.
Nice, nice. That's a really good analogy. That don't dip your fingers in, just jump in. Um, so you touched on something there which is really interesting around the architecture side of things. So a lot of businesses these days are attempting to get themselves a more flexible architecture, and a lot of projects that I have I've worked on some, and I've also heard about a lot, which is that a company will begin their kind of AI journey and then hit a roadblock. And that roadblock will happen because there isn't sufficient integration into their business systems, there isn't sufficient access to data, and all of those kind of things. And so a project needs to be paused in order for that work to happen. And many businesses are trying to get themselves into a situation where they have that flexible or more agile kind of architecture. And at the same time, what that looks like often is companies have that kind of modular approach. And you mentioned it there that you don't want to be trapped into one programming language or trapped into one database structure. You want to be able to have flexibility and have a modular approach. So you see companies like BBC, for example, where their conversational AI capabilities are drawing in individual capabilities and components from all sorts of places. So they might use Microsoft's NLU for some intents. They might actually bring in Google NLU at some point. They might use different types of speech recognition for different devices and surfaces. And so there's lots of these components that can be brought together to assemble a conversational AI and AI architecture. Or you can opt for a full suite like Aisera and other vendors and get the whole kind of package. So I suppose from your perspective, you must be always thinking about this whole concept of vendor lock-in, Because what you don't want to get into is a situation where somebody reaches the limits of Aisera and then begins to consider a different technology. You want to be in a position where you're growing with the company as a partner. So I'm wondering if you can shed some light in how you're thinking about the scalability, the extensibility, and the growth of Aisera in line with this changing company technology philosophy of having modular and component technology.
A very good question, Ken. I love it. So first is there are two parts or three parts to your question. So I'm going to parse it and try to answer. First is what I call is if you want to use like when we did Isera, you can actually rent components. I'm offer a platform. So you can take my entire solution if you want to do it. For those people who do not want to build anything on Isera, you can do it. That's what I was saying. Or you can take our platform and build on top of our platform or next to my platform, right? If you don't want to build, right? Third thing is you may want to take only certain components from me. Like for example, you may want only knowledge graph from me. You may only want my neural search, right? We will expose everything as an API. We've already done that, right? So many of my customers actually take, you may not want to use it for my entire enchilada. You may want to buy only chips from me, or you may want to buy salsa from me. I'll rent you whatever you want, Ken. I mean, I'm here to help you. I'm here to work with you to decide what the component that you need to bring your journey at this point in time. Because if you have something working there and you only need that, we will give you that. So that has been my philosophy day one for everything I do over last whatever 20, 30 years that I've been there. So I give you a platform, I give you individual components, but also give you fully packaged solution if you choose to take it from us. So you have a spectrum of solution. It's not one or either. And that's where I like to see it. And when you take this spectrum, it's to your point, it should be broken down by individual components. And those will be, you can look at conversational AI as a wholly one thing, or you might say, I only want conversation platform with only knowledge, guided flows, conversation flows. I do not want any NLP, NLU in that. Or I want intent phrases, NLU understanding. I want to rent only NLU from you. Or I may want your unsupervised machine for my knowledge articles. We also give you conversation automation. To your point, people talk about integration, etc. One thing that we did, very unique that I think is you don't need really integrations. The reason to do integration is if you can't do right your platform, have a very good what you call a automation workflow platform. Something coming from ServiceNow we did is we created what we call a conversational automation. Like you have a conversation AI. Conversation automation is to automate your workflows with a conversation engine. Because there are many automation players too. But to do automate those things, I don't want you to write a connector to it. So I should be able to write any software because software is eating the world. As long as you can write in the software, I can talk to you. Assuming you have some kind of an interfaces, some system interface, APIs, webhooks. So that's the beauty of what we have created is you and us can talk to each other. Even though your impedance and my impedance may not match, I can create the AI layer or the software layer to do that. So all these components we are providing so people to do it. I call them build. You can build your own solution using Isera, right? Maybe we should call it in this show called Build AI or Common AI to build. Let's come with that. Like, bring your own conversation, BYOD, like BYO AI or something like that. Right? Bring your own AI, right? Something that's the concept I'm saying is bring your own AI to us, build it on top of us, next to us. That's absolutely possible. What ideally I also tell people is don't start from scratch. Right? It's like if I have to build my own cloud and I don't want to go rent from Amazon, Azure, or Google, I'm not being prudent. I'm not being a citizen of my company. That's something is what you don't want companies to do today. There's enough AI now in the world. Don't start from scratch. You start from a base substrate. Which substrate you want to use is up to you. You may use cane substrate. You may use some other substrate, but start with some substrate and then build what other unique components that you want to do and buy other components also from other people. Look at how NVIDIA started. It was like NVIDIA was sitting next to Intel as a co-processor in the graphics world. Today, they give you both GPU, CPU, and they'll give you AI processors too. But you don't have to start from day one saying, I want to build my own processors. You don't wake up and doing that. I think that's something is you and your audience can help your audiences come realize and look, don't start from some substrate.
Yeah.
Then on top of substrate, next to substrate, rent components and build next to whatever you want to make a solution that fits your need. So then it's almost like when you buy a shirt or a cloth, you want to wear something that fits your needs. You want to customize it to your audience, to users. And that's where your customization will come in. But you don't wake up and say, I want to plant a cotton seed, I want to grow cotton, I want to by the time you're done, and you're not being a good citizen for your company.
There's a really good model, which is exactly what you've just explained. I'm sure you've seen it, which is the different types of technology and how you should buy or build. So you've got the kind of like first stage, which is the commodities, which is
Right.
what you're getting at, which is, databases, cloud storage, hosting. It's all commoditized. Then you've got the kind of like specific functionalities that have already been built that you don't need to rebuild, like a dialogue manager, or from hearing you speak, your kind of like knowledge graph and stuff like that seems to fall into that category where it's already been built, you can just use it out the box. And then you've got these kind of like very specific company or industry specific things that no one's providing for, which you would need to build. So, for example, if you have a very particular line of business system and there's no integrations to it, you can't just go and buy off the shelf a piece of middleware that will just do it. That would be what you'd need to build. But the components that you can just buy off the shelf and combine that with commoditized kind of like readily available services, and through that you can kind of stitch together your architecture. It sounds as though that's kind of what you're describing there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no, you nailed it. Look, you can go build it. Now, let's compare both of them. Build versus buy. Always, when you try to build, you can't build this with 4 5 people or 10 people. And that's other mistake also do it. If you really want to build, let's make sure that you have enough money to build today and also to maintain. You can't say I'll build with X number of people and then I'll put into on a cold ice to continue. It's not going to happen. This requires care and feed. It's a software. You got to change a set. Requirements will change constantly. So the most people, if you try to build versus buy, is still 10 to 15x difference. So if you really want to build, let's make sure that you're building it and you have a good business case and ROI, and you have enough dollars to build, right? So an average build today will still cost $5 to $10 million or even $20 million. If you do not have that much expense, don't bother building it, right? You may have a need to customize it, but do you have that budget to it? Do you really need to add that amount of customers to it? If not, take some off-the-shelf component, right? The same reason, look, today there's a reason why the hyperscale vendors buy switches from Cisco and Juniper directly. If they think the Cisco switches is good enough, they'll buy it. If they really need to customize for certain workloads, you may do it. So you have to keep your optionality always open. Do I really need to buy today for the next 2 3 years, or do I need to build? And if I build it, to your point, am I going to build for next 2 3 years? Do I have budget for this year and next 4 years to come? But that budget is not going to be, buy versus build is usually at least 10 to 20x difference minimum. You're not, because by the time even you hire 10 employees, right? Even one employee cost can pay for most of the solution out there. 10 is nothing, right? To build a good solution, you'll have 10, 20, 30 people. You need all, like to your point, I need to understand dialogue manager. Who understand what a dialogue manager is, right? Who understand what's a workflow engine? It's like, it's not easy to make and integrate those solutions, right? Moment you start hiring those people, that's an expensive solution. Particularly in this economy, now that people are so tight, let's realize the market that we are in. The whole global economy is under turmoil. In this economy, usually build is a wrong choice. You should not want to build it, right? You build when you have a lot of resources, you have a lot of empty resources, and you want to do something and money. Right now, build is pretty much out. Every CIO I talk to, every CFO, there's no building. If somebody's sitting there doing any special project, they're all being canned. Look at markets are on 70%. Are we entering a recession? Nobody knows. Is financial markets going to recover to the same level? Nobody knows. Is the SaaS multiples come back to the same level, SaaS and cloud? Most people think it won't come back. So the party is over. So all these private equity companies, the large vendors who put like 20, $30 billion, their funds are down. They lost 20 billion already, 30 billion, right? That party is over at this point. So it's like another reset that happened in 2008 or 2001. So at this point, if you really want to do a good solution to your companies, I always say, don't build right now. This is the wrong time to build. You have the flexibility to build, but not today, unless you have that much.
Yeah. And there's no need to, your companies like Aisera who've built a lot already, and it's all kind of good to go. You mentioned something really interesting there, which is BYO AI. Is that what it was?
BIOI. BIOAI. You're right.
Yeah,
Bring your own AI.
Yeah, bring your own AI. That's a really interesting concept because it kind of ties into what we've seen to be the kind of next phase of conversational AI in the enterprise. I know companies like Speakeasy have been doing this for some time. I know Cobus Kreiling has been writing about this a little bit. We've had a lot of conversations about it, which is, are some of these enterprises who you'll be working with, as I mentioned, you've probably been to a customer who've got a current platform. It's maybe they've reached the limits of it, and you're kind of being they're using AI Siri in its place. Or you've probably also got clients who already have like a chatbot or something like that, and they want to introduce like a Teams bot or something like that. And so you may well have been brought in alongside other technologies within an organization. And lots of organizations are in that position where they've got investments in different technologies, a chatbot here, a voice assistant there. And, they don't really want to scrap what they've done, but they do need to kind of level up and bring in some additional capabilities. And so I read that AI Sierra has an orchestration layer, and the way I read that, it makes me think of similar things, similar to like Speakeasy or like a One Reach, where you have the ability to bring assistants and AI assistants from different vendors and different places, and have AI Sierra almost front end those things. Am I understanding that right? I wonder if you can explain
Yeah,
what
no,
you're
it's
referring to
beyond
with
that.
orchestration.
No, it's much beyond that. But very good question. So when which I see the world, I'll describe to you, Ken. So look, first of all, to me, remember I talked about universal bot, yeah, and we do it by domain. Let's say I do a sales, finance, marketing. Tomorrow, if you have, to your earlier point of Bill, if you have a better bot in certain domain, we don't mind integrating with your bot, because remember, I am the universal orchestrator. I am the universal bot. From that perspective, we can talk to any third-party bot. That's no issue at all for us. And so that's what typically when people talk about yeah, integrating in the conversation AI world. But when we talk about automation and orchestration, I'm not talking about that. When I talk about automation and orchestration, that's why I use the word conversational automation. I actually want to be the workflow engine, orchestration engine to take actions. So when you call and say my account is logged out, I have to unlock the account and send you the new link to your password. Or similarly, when you say I want refund, I have to genuinely see, do you really need to be refunded, do all the analysis, and actually give you the money back. So there I'm not I'm actually doing the performance of orchestration. I have to talk to your Stripe, PayPal, look at your accounts, send the money back. So we are actually doing the whole orchestration ourselves in the automation world, right? Whether that is in insurance payment, financial industry, we have fintech companies who are saying, hey, I want to orchestrate moving my money from money transfer from UK to, I don't know, India, UK to China, UK to Australia, right? We will be able to do that, right? So that's what I mean by the orchestration engine. Today, most call center AI is still knowledge serving, FAQs. That's also important. But the world that I see it is most average requests, it's actually other way around. 70% of requests are requires you have to do something. Telling you, saying that here's an article, go do it, versus doing the job for you is where the AI should come in. So the AI should now go to AI plus automation, right? So in a way, we should say bring your own AI plus automation. Maybe we call it BY or AI A or something that sound like triple A or something.
Nice. So you're talking really about customer journey orchestration, and the platform is one, it's front ending it, but it's also providing the cogs and engine inside to actually enact a process and deliver the actual end result of the service on the back end.
That's right. And again, the reason I do this, Ken, is at the end of the day, every company should focus on your business, not worry about I want to build it. I think that should come first. You should do is when you wake up, what can I do to grow my business, scale my business? How can I eliminate unnecessary costs? How can I improve the experience to my users? How can I get my users and employees productive? If you focus on those, then you will decide what you want. That's, to me, as a business buyer, always look at the business requirement, the problem requirements, and see what you want. If your business requirement in your account requires only knowledge serving, just only do that. But if your business requires you to do both AI and automation, absolutely, right? And if your requirement requires multiple domains, go for multiple domains or multiple languages, right? You don't have to start everything on day one. Start small. Remember, when I make a bet, you may want to start, I want to only do English in one domain. The domain could be sales. I want to do best sales conversational bot, or I want to do only marketing. Pick one domain, right? One language, and do only, if you think that it's only knowledge serving, just answer the FAQs and knowledge serving, or do the automation piece, right? Start, I'm giving back to your point, I'm giving you the multiple touch points of how you want to engage with me. Choice will be yours. But start one area, grow, and along the way, if you want to build, absolutely, you have the platform and API to build on top of us or next to us.
Nice. I touched on earlier on, we both touched on earlier on, how some companies don't have the infrastructure to be able to enable some of these automation processes, don't have systems with API access and those kind of things. Maybe they don't have data in a good shape and stuff like that. So a lot of this kind of needs to be in place to enable some of this automation. However, there is other ways of doing it with things like RPA and stuff like that. I'm wondering where you stand on robotic process automation and whether that's something that you kind of consider and your thoughts on it generally.
We do. We actually, when I say content automation, RPA is part of that. To me, RPA is a small piece of the overall automation, right? Robotic process automation fits into the overall automation bucket. See, the way in which I see the world is automation is a much bigger umbrella. Underneath, I could do RPAs, I can do runbooks, I could do orchestration engines. So to me, robotic process, screenscaping, running process automation, all of that comes under overall automation key. So
Mm.
today we will do our automation, or tomorrow you want to integrate with my partners like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, happy to integrate with them too, or even ServiceNow, right? And again, when you integrate with this thing, right, you already have existing process, etc. Use them. You don't have to
Mm.
leverage. You don't have to modify them. You don't need to throw away. Keep what you have that's working. Use Aisera next to any of those. That's how I see the world.
Mm. Nice. That's a very mature way of looking at it, as and setting up in a way that is, I suppose, it's a non-threatening and complementary way of approaching things, which is that if an organization has nothing, then they can take the whole thing. If an organization has lots of stuff going on, but they have a very specific problem, then you can almost fit in a little bit like, it's almost like, to use the kind of Bruce Lee analogy of water. Water takes the shape of the glass, and water kind of finds a way through the cracks to fill the gaps and stuff like that. It almost seems as though that's the kind of strategy. It's like if you look at a business from front to back, there is gaps in here where sophisticated organizations need to fill, and therefore Aisera, sounds as from what you're describing in one go-to-market, is the water that can come in and fit wherever it needs to fit in order to enable a process, sitting alongside RPA and all that kind of stuff, UiPath and that where it needs to. But at the same time, if you want to fill the whole glass, you can do, and you can take the whole platform, and that's that kind of thing. It's a very sophisticated way of approaching the market,
You're
I'd say.
absolutely right, Ken. You described beautifully. That's exactly. I wish I used that analogy of water, but I used to thought myself in the past, I'm like an amoeba. I mean, amenable to whatever shape and form you want me to take it, right? I'm the single cell amoeba. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a startup company. My job is to cater to customer needs. So we give you optionality at every shape and form. Whatever you don't want, we want to remove that. But my goal is to, as you said, the water analogy is the best way to describe it. So beautiful.
Mm. Nice, nice, and that's really good. That the two final things that I was wanting to kind of touch on is that I've seen on the website you've got a number of good customers, high profile customers. You mentioned Zoom already. Zoom is down on the website as being a customer. McAfee, a very large company, as well. I don't know what the situation is with 8x8 as well, actually, which I found surprising. I wonder if you can shed some light on the reason why I found that surprising is because I thought 8x8 would be investing in their own technology like Genesis and 5.9 and stuff like that. But I just wonder whether you might be able to shed any examples of what these companies are using the Aisera for. Whether that's I don't know if that's part of your NDAs or whatever it might be, but yeah, any examples of how it's being used in those companies would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, most of my customers' examples, which are already publicly available, we put it on our webpage too, right? Case study wise. So look, even if you start with companies like you mentioned it, start with McAfee. McAfee is using for consumer business. They're using it for enterprise business. They're using it for I call it like front office, customer facing side. They're also using for back office, right? They're trying to use for all the businesses. So McAfee has what hundreds of millions of users. It could be a teenager to a senior citizen asking questions about their cybersecurity and their issues with their antivirus not working on their device, on their iPhone, their workstation, right? So all of that, we have to handle it. So all the use case will be pretty much all the things that we discussed in McAfee, and we did a good. I mean, the amount of saving we save them per year is millions of dollars. They've been with us for multi years, so it's a great customer for us. They taught us a lot. We learned a lot through that process. Same thing with Zoom. Zoom uses for both front office, back office, customer service, support, IT, right? Many use cases. We learned a lot. I mean, Zoom is the poster child of this industry. Through COVID, they are one of the best IPOs of 2020, right? They defined what the user experience is. They define the word X in the call it CX, UX, EX, EAX, right? They are the X, they are the experience, right? My day starts with Zoom, my day ends with Zoom, right? I love Zoom, what they have done for the industry, right? So we are having somebody like that helping them in across all the things, right? An example of the thing I talk about, the universal bot, multiple domains, everything. So, right, high scale, volume, right? The amount of volume of requests and all those things for, right? So I like that. See, and then you talked about even vendors like 8x8. 8x8 is a great company for in the UCaaS space. We've been with them for years, right? Trying to help them, and they may want to build their own. This is an example of where a customer, a partner can build their own. I want to give you that optionality. To your point, look, at any point you say, look, I want to build something more, I want to do XYZ. I will sit with you. I'm the water for 8x8, right? Whether the water is sparkling water or plain water, I don't mind. I'm some water. I'm here to serve your needs, right? Uh, Same, and like we have many customers like that. We have done Chug. Chug is a very large company. They're using us for multiple domains, right? For HR requests, IT, customer service, right? I think then Grant Thornton is another one. It's an auditing company, right? It's a world's, I don't know, top number four, number three auditing company. Like, their requests as employees, people asking about taxes, audits, everything, right? So my job is again cater to different industries. I'm not locked into one vertical, right? As a startup, my job is to figure out where all can I help and where, and grow the company and at the same time build a product, right?
Hmm.
It's a journey. We're only 4.5 years into the company. I have what X more years to go, 5, 10 years to go. I said this AI industry is going to be under 20, 30 years. We are just like first round of the boxing match. And to your point, if there's so many vendors, because there's really a problem to solve. If there's not too many people are there, then problem is not to be solved, right?
Hmm. Nice, nice, perfect. That was a perfect thing to end on. We're in round one. Ding ding. Let's go. Fantastic. Muddu, this has been absolutely amazing. I'll put the links in here in the show notes, aisera.com. For those of you listening on a podcast, it is aisera.com. And Siddharth just put a link in there as well in the show notes, which is aisera.com/customers. If you want to have a bit more of an in-depth look at some of the things we've just been talking about there with Zoom and McAfee and those kind of things. So do check those out. Also go to voicesummit.ai/agenda if you want to find out about what's going on in October at Arlington with VUX at Voice22. A full day of contact center automation strategy, design, insights, technology, the whole nine yards, everything you need to automate your contact center. And if you haven't subscribed already, you've heard Muddu in this conversation so far being very, I've got to chop some of that out actually and stick that in some of our marketing material, I think. So you've had some very kind words to say about us. So VUX.world/subscribe if you want to get emailed about all of these interviews we do with excellent minds like Muddu and lots of others as well. Muddu, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. I've learned a hell of a lot. As I said, Aisera sounds like the water that is molding to the organization, whatever their needs are, being able to fit into the right place, taking the shape that it needs to. But at the same time, if you want to buy a glass full, then you can do that as well. And so I think it's love the strategy, love the way you've been talking about it, and it's been an absolute pleasure to spend the last hour with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken. You bring the best out of me. So thanks for asking me all these questions and making this. I'm a big fan of your show and what you do for the audience. We need you to keep doing this every day.